across America. Live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. It is the Monday edition of Point of View. We're looking forward to a really great week. And last week you heard me announce that we will have in studio with us today Penna Dexter. I have her whole bio there in case you are not familiar with all the things that she's done over the years, as of course was the co-host of Point of View. And Penna, it is great to see you in studio.
It's good to be back, Kerby. And Collin, it's good to see you
too. Good to see
you,
yes.
And tell everybody what's going on, because we certainly are going to get into some of the issues in the news, but people sometimes say, what's happened to Penna? What's she doing these days?
Well, I mean, you called it retiring last summer when I said I was not going to come back and do the live radio shows. It's because the main reason, I guess, because I have 9 grandchildren that are very young, live near me, and it's a time that I need to really kind of be there for my family. But I still listen, and I actually do. You air my commentaries every week, which I appreciate your doing. And so I'm still very much concerned and involved about all the things that you discuss here on Point of View. And this is a big week for Point of View.
I'd say so. And again, I might just mention that we've posted your commentary, which we also posted on Friday. But I thought for just a minute, let's talk about some very significant changes over the weekend. And one is the announcement by President Trump that maybe we will see some end to this very significant military campaign, which is known Operation Epic Fury, and a willingness at least to give Iran 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which we've talked about, and to see what kind of actions might take place in the future. One of the articles, of course, even says he cited that there were good and productive talks. So that may be a resolving of what has been something of a major conflict, and certainly we've seen the increase of the various energy prices, haven't we?
Well, we have, and of course you're getting a lot of complaints on this side, but the president had actually threatened the infrastructure in Iran, the energy infrastructure, to get that Strait of Hormuz opened, and he's backed off a bit on that. He's always sort of following the art of the deal, and he's working that hard. Over the weekend they had some talks. We don't know everything that was said, but I think there's 5 days for that to play out, and we will see what happens.
Well, again, that one is one of the pieces that really just changed over the last few hours. But one of the other articles we have here, which I encourage people to read, The Enemy in Iran in One Lesson, because it reminds us of this is an evil empire. This is what George W. Bush referred to it as. Many others have as well. Tells the story of these 3 men who were hanged, one of whom was on the national wrestling team. Reminds us also of the fact that you had the Iranian women's soccer team who were wanting to seek asylum in Australia but have been returned back. And it's just a good, I think, a reminder that when people say, why are we going to war with this country? Well, it also reminds us that in addition to the threat of nuclear weapons, this is a place where, tens of thousands, at least 32,000 Iranians were killed in the streets, and tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of individuals have been killed, and it's very difficult for any of the Christians living in Iran.
When we actually initiated Operation Epic Fury, I think a lot of people had that, what's going on with the citizens of Iran and the protesters being killed by the hundreds and thousands. That was top of mind for many of us. But I think as this has gone on, now we're thinking more about some of the security issues. But it's good to go back and remember. And what we're hoping is that there are people there that are going to take over and get a good government there. The way is being opened up as it probably never will be again. And if they don't take that opportunity, then I suppose it's on them.
Let me just say that is the first article here, The Enemy in Iran in One Lesson, comes from the editors of the Wall Street Journal. Aren't necessarily always supportive of President Trump, but they wanted to bring some reality to the conversations, and I appreciate that article, which we've posted at pointofview.net. You mentioned Collin. Collin Lambert is with us, and this is our Truth Team Week. And Collin, again, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to drive up here and spend a week with us as we talk about Truth Team.
It is great to be here for Truth Team Week, and a very excited because we're kind of in the America 250 theme this
Yes.
week. With the 250th birthday of America is coming up this summer, and excited about that. But Truth Team Week I'm excited about because it is such a key piece of Point of View continuing the work that it's been called to do over 50 years now. And you have the opportunity to give right now. Why is it so important to give? Because this ministry is supported by you. There's no big bank account somewhere. We're certainly not getting anything from the government. So we have a goal this week of $150,000. I can update you that the first day so far, $5,490 has come in. So we're going to start working down from that and see if we can knock it out by week's end. How do you get involved? It's very simple. You can call 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. You can go to pointofview.net. That's a great way to get involved. And we've even got some special gifts if you give at different levels. Of course, if you give at the $30 a month or more level, we have the wonderful Outlook magazine and all of the booklets that come out every month. That's going to be included. But also at the $30 a month level, we've got a full size, almost like a golf umbrella, has Point of View on it, but it actually compacts down to just 22 inches. So I've never seen one that's a golf umbrella but also goes small. That's a gift at the $30 a month or more level. Also, if you give at the $50 a month or more level, we have these beautiful wooden bookends. It has part of the Declaration on there, and you can utilize that. And then for the $100 a month or more, the words that built America, the Declaration, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, even some speeches that have been given, famous speeches through the time. So get involved right now. We need your gifts this week. This is one of the few times of the year we actually come to you and say, we need your help, and today's that day. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Penna, I will hold this up for those watching online. This book, which is The Words That Built America, it has the Constitution, and then they had an individual translate it into 21st century language because, as you know, if you read some things in the 18th century, it's a little harder to read. And then, of course, it has the Constitution, the Declaration, it has all the famous speeches, very significant ones, all sorts of documents as well, including things like Common Sense, the Mayflower Compact, and then even some of the patriotic songs. So, again, America 250, and that's one of the things we're celebrating, isn't it?
It is. And, one of the things I think we deal with in this country is the successive generations have a lesser appreciation for America. For the most part, you can't speak for everyone, but we need to teach people again about our founding and get them excited. And as I walked in here and saw all these beautiful gifts, I thought this is perfect, especially during this particular year, but also for a show like Point of View, because we've always encouraged people to love America. And at times, there's a media out there that doesn't help matters, doesn't encourage that. And in fact, so many untruths out there about our country that we need to turn that around on people. And that's part of the reason we exist as a radio outlet.
Well, again, we encourage people who are calling right now to call. That number is 800-347-5151. We already have a little bit of momentum from some people that have already written in, but you can call in at 800-347-5151. Of course, you can go to the website, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
War is costly. After more than 3 weeks of military engagement in Iran, critics and even many supporters want to know the costs. Now, the cost in lives has been minimal, though any person who dies in a war is a tragedy. But previous war games done by the Defense Department estimated a much greater loss of life in military hardware. And it's reasonable to assume that Iran's military will not be able to threaten its neighbors anytime in the future. The financial costs to the U.S. are significant, exceeding $1 billion each day. For example, the estimate for the first 12 days was $16 billion. When Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was asked, he said there is no price tag that will make the Iran war unaffordable. On the one hand, you could argue that you can't put a price tag on bringing peace to the Middle East. On the other hand, he seems to be saying that whenever we need more money, we can just crank up the money printer. Let's talk about something politicians want to ignore. The country is quickly approaching $39 trillion in national debt. Last month, the government brought in $313 billion. That sounds like quite a bit, but the government in that month spent $621 billion. That's a $38 billion deficit in 1 month. The deficit over the last 6 months was $1 trillion. Here's something else politicians want to ignore. This year, we need to fund $10 trillion of our debt through U.S. Treasuries, and the interest rate on these new treasuries is much higher than before, meaning it will cost the government about $400 billion a year in interest. Yes, war is costly, but few want to talk about the financial costs that are mounting every day. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Go deeper on topics like you just heard by visiting pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Restoring America's godly heritage. Point of View.
There's just nothing like Point of View. I just, if everybody just gave $1 who listened to it, it would be fully funded. The problem is so many people do listen, and they just don't even think about sending in support. And I would just encourage people to do that. It's a great time at the end of the year. They can plan for the next year. There are things that you will hear on Point of View that you will not hear anywhere else. I mean, where else can you go and get an analysis of all the biblical issues applied to what's happening currently in our culture? I mean, that is such a need. And Point of View brings on the top people, the top thinkers, and they're always doing it biblically. And so there's just nothing like it. And it affects so many people. If you give to it, you're going to touch a lot of people's lives. So I highly encourage that. I give to Point of View. I mean, I remember listening for the first time back when I was in law school and hearing Marlon Maddox and going, oh, wow, I didn't know there was anything like this. And there really still isn't. There's just nothing.
Point of View. Restoring America's godly heritage.
Good friend Kelly Shackelford, Penna Dexter in studio with us. And Penna, I just thought for a minute we will have Kelly on Friday, and I'm sure he's going to be very excited then, but he's been very excited because they've had 11 cases go to the Supreme Court, won all 11, and the last 2 they've won 9-0. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, and you don't really hear about those cases in the media. Every once in a while, Fox will cover one if it's got some kind of exciting side to it. But the media doesn't cover it, but we do. We go in depth about the cases and the religious liberty principles that are at stake. And now Kelly has been appointed by President Trump to be on his Religious Liberty Commission, so he has influence even on the laws that end up getting passed with regard to protection of a religious liberty. So this is a great time for Point of View to be well funded. Because we have the expertise to be able to explain these issues, and we have the enthusiasm here and the will to do it.
Well, again, one of the things, Collin, that he talks about is a different guest. And of course, he's one of those, Yeah. Kelly Shackelford isn't sitting around saying, I have nothing better to do on my Fridays. He comes over here when he's interrupting other activities because he sees the value of Point of View. He's listened to Point of View. He's been supportive of Point of View. He's actually been involved in the board on Point of View. I couldn't have him much more involved than he is right now. And I think he's encouraging other people to do the same.
Absolutely. And that's one of the keys, really, to Truth Team Week. You have an opportunity to do just what Kelly Shackelford just was talking about, and that's support the ministry of Point of View. My pastor's been recently preaching through Philippians, and if you have had a chance recently to read Philippians 4:17 and 18, Paul is talking about giving and the importance of giving. And in verse 18, I love how he describes the gifts that were given to his ministry. A fragrant offering, a sacrifice acceptable to God. Think about that. Penna, you were talking just before we went on the air. A joyful gift. That's what the Lord's looking for, a joyful gift. You have an opportunity to impact people's lives right now, for now and for eternity. The kinds of information that you get each and every day from Point of View is phenomenal. And like Kelly said, no one else is doing it. So you have a wonderful opportunity to be a part right now. How do you do it? Again, very simple. Just pick up that phone and call 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. pointofview.net. Any amount works great. If you want to break it down over 12 months, we can do that as well. Maybe you're currently giving monthly. You might want to up your monthly giving. It'd be a great time to do that as well. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
Penna, let's, if we can, for just a minute, talk about your commentary, because you mentioned that earlier. We actually have your commentary posted on Friday, and it actually arrives in people's inbox on Saturday. But the one that we just decided not to talk about on Friday, because we knew you'd be here on Monday, Planned Parenthood Med Spa, which I think really just shows that some things have changed in the abortion area. It's affected Planned Parenthood, and they've come up with kind of a new model. Can you explain?
Well, they have. They're starting to implement something new. And, we've been talking about and exposing Planned Parenthood ever since I can remember. Mm-hmm. And I've been around Point of View a long time. And we've actually been very successful at the state level and the federal level of defunding them and preventing Medicaid dollars to be going to Planned Parenthood. Now, by law, by the Hyde Amendment, you cannot fund organizations. You can't fund abortion. But some organizations like Planned Parenthood do other services, and but they also do abortions as their main kind of activity. So, so they're really getting around that defund of abortion, and they're hurting. They're hurting financially. 50 clinics closed last year.
Wow.
50 Planned Parenthood clinics. They're having to lay off staff, and so there's a gap. There's a funding gap. Well, in blue states like California, they want to stop the closure of the clinics. So they're trying something new, and that is medical services, not non-medical services, Botox, fillers, injections. There's something that people do now called hydration IVs, which kind of just makes you look younger because you're getting more fluids in. So this one set of clinics in Northern California is now doing those things. And they aren't medical, really, so they have to be paid for in cash. And this is a really good way for these Planned Parenthoods to stay afloat. One of the gruesome parts of it, I think, is I mentioned those IV hydrations. And this particular set of clinics is using the same chairs to get your hydration as the women who have just had an abortion are recuperating in. So it's, just to think about that. You're going to go get your med spa treatment at a Planned Parenthood. You may pay a little less, but that's what you have to deal with.
Collin, I was just thinking this is a good example of something that you're probably going to hear on Point of View. I doubt you'll even hear it on a lot of other Christian radio, in part because Penna Dexter did the research, pulled it together, and if people said, okay, I've not heard that before, I need to read it for myself, that's the first article we've posted today on the website, pointofview.net.
Yes, so many resources each and every day on the website, pointofview.net. And again, a reminder that you're not going to hear much of this information talked about. You might hear a headline. You're not going to hear the in-depth conversation. You're certainly not going to get most of the guests that Kerby has here on the program, and that's another benefit to it. I know that Point of View is benefiting you because you're listening right now. We want it to benefit not only you, but your neighbors and others as well. And you can help us continue the work of Point of View by calling right now with your gift at 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. One thing that we've all been, I'm sure, heard about in recent days and weeks and months, hearts are opening right now. Mm-hmm. Pastors, I've talked to a number of pastors recently talking about how people's hearts are open to the gospel, how people's hearts are open to God's word. You're sharing that kind of information every day, and we see an awakening happening in America, young people coming back to church, and you can help support the work that's going on informing young people. You've even got a podcast for young people. There's so many things that are being done. Your gift makes it possible. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
Ben, I was just thinking about the Know Why podcast that Liberty has put together, and it is outstanding. And, of course, she really does focus on a lot of those issues. And back to Planned Parenthood, chemical abortion. Of course, tomorrow we'll have Chelsea Yeoman with us as well. These are all issues that we're covering because we believe that these are important issues that Christians need to know about.
Well, yes. And, sometimes you get frustrated about what's going on in the culture, in the society. And, want to do something about it. But what do? You don't always know. You sometimes can't travel to your state capital or Washington, D.C. or influence the influencers. But you can give money to Point of View to help encourage and activate people all over the country. It's something you can actually do without a whole lot of effort. And that's what we're trying to give you that opportunity today.
Collin, we were just thinking about the fact that kind of the first step for a lot of people is $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year, because at that level, talk about all the actual gifts and benefits that come from even joining at that level.
Yeah, at that level, you're going to get these wonderful monthly booklets, and they're on all different topics, the Declaration, gambling, borders and deportation. They're very timely. You get the Outlook magazine as well each and every month. And again, we're throwing in this big umbrella this year, and it's like a golf umbrella, but it goes down to a compact size of 22 inches. It's got the Point of View logo on it. All of that available to you at $30 a month. It's just our way of saying thank you. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, maybe you can give a thank you or two for some of the people that have, but this is a great opportunity for you to call. As you know, we have staff today answering the phones at 800-347-5151. Later in the week, we'll even have family members there as well. But you can also just simply go to the website, pointofview.net, and see some of the gifts that we want to make available to you if you give. And we will be back right after this.
America was founded on a bedrock of biblical values. The best way to help America reclaim that godly heritage is to equip individuals to adopt a biblical worldview in their own life. You can help accomplish that by joining Point of View's Truth Team, and there is no better time to join than this week. The Truth Team is Point of View's core team of supporters, the people who make it possible for listeners like you around the nation to receive a biblical perspective on contemporary issues every day. To continue our mission effectively, Point of View needs to raise $150,000 by this Friday. Help us reach our goal and, most importantly, help Americans adopt a biblical worldview. Join the Truth Team today by visiting pointofview.net or call 1-800-347-5151. That's pointofview.net. And toll-free 1-800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Back once again. If you have not joined with us, I hope you might consider doing so. That number to call, 1-800-347-5151. Of course, the website is pointofview.net. And we'd love to hear from you. And it's Monday of Truth Team Week. I'm looking forward to a great week. In just a few minutes, I'll give you a list of all the people we'll be talking to this week. But we are privileged to have in studio with us Penna Dexter and, of course, Collin Lambert. How are we doing so far?
We're doing great. We started actually at about $3,500 in. We're up to $7,140. I don't have any names to thank yet. I will thank them as soon as they come in, but waiting for that. But that's a great start. Let me just remind you, it's so easy. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Pointofview.net just takes a couple of minutes. We have friendly volunteers and staff who are waiting to take your calls right now. And your gifts make possible what you're hearing here every day. There's no grants from the government. There's no big endowment that's feeding into Point of View. Your gifts, as a listener-supported program, your gifts make it possible. If you love what you hear here every day, if you want more people to hear it, now's the time. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Penna, one of the things you were talking about is we encourage people to take action. And one of those is we have a take action item, which right now is to support the SAVE Act. I might just mention tomorrow we've got a piece by Colonel Allen West about the kind of people that are opposing this. But you've been watching this for some time, and we've seen how President Trump has reacted to this, how some of the Republicans have reacted to this, and how some of the Democratic leaders have reacted to this. But this will be the first time I had a chance to get your thoughts about the SAVE Act, which would require that if you are going to register to vote, you need to show that you're a citizen. If you're already registered, that's not going to affect you. But then when you go and vote, you should show an ID, which doesn't seem like a great significant impediment, but nevertheless, we have some people saying it's Jim Crow 2.0.
Well, it's not a significant impediment. I mean, it's insulting really to certain groups of people to say that there are people that don't have the ability or the mental faculties to go and get an ID. I mean, if you don't want to drive and have a driver's license, then, there are other IDs you can get fairly simply. So it's a ridiculous argument. Of course, it's to preserve the chaos that has existed in our elections, to allow some types of fraud and cheating. So it's important to President Trump to get this. He calls it the Save America Act. He thinks it will save America. And he is not now another chaotic situation that he's had to also negotiate over the weekend. I don't think he slept. But is what's going on at our airports.
That's right.
Because the Department of Homeland Security, the only department that has not been funded, it was specifically left out of all the appropriations, and so it's up in the air. Democrats, and it's really a partisan fight here. The Democrats are not voting to fund Homeland Security, which means that the TSA agents aren't being funded, and the airport's waits are getting very ridiculous. I'm glad you drove here, Collin. And I don't plan on flying anywhere for a while. But it's chaotic, and it really needs to be fixed. The TSA agents, I think, have missed 2 paychecks, and they're not exactly making the kind of money that you can miss paychecks with for very long. So something has to be done about that. And there has been some talk about just specifically voting on the TSA agents. But now Trump is digging his heels in. He says if we do not pass the SAVE Act, which is another partisan fight, then I'm not going to settle or make a deal on just funding TSA. And so, he's standing strong, love it or hate it, he's standing for this SAVE Act. It's important enough to him to get. And I think it's important. I think it's good that he's doing so. I feel bad for those families of TSA agents, but hopefully we can get something done.
One of the things we talk about is sometimes these are 80-20 issues. This is one of those. And
that's right.
80% or more of most Americans, no matter their background, pretty much believe that it's not burdensome to show a photo ID when I vote, when I have to show a photo ID to go into a federal building, to buy alcohol, to get insurance, sometimes even to get in certain pharmaceuticals. You know the list. The list goes on and on and on and on. And then to say, well, somehow this is just too much, and this is a draconian action that is going to prevent people from voting. You have in the past talked about the fact that when they had a runoff in Georgia, you were calling people in Georgia for a while and finding out that some of the addresses were wrong, but also Georgia had implemented a fairly significant number of statutes that would actually ensure voter integrity, and actually voter participation went up in the midst of it rather than down, didn't it?
That's been happening in states where they have good, solid voter laws. And so you're seeing participation go up. And you're also seeing certain communities, African-American communities and others, that are traditionally not voting as much, voting more as voter security gets better. So it's really not a good argument at all. And the other part of this is the funding of the Department of Homeland Security. That includes ICE, but ICE already had a big funding injection. Mm-hmm. So the hatred of ICE that's among a lot of folks, that shouldn't even be a part of this, but they certainly they keep up the rhetoric.
Well, again, this is a good example, Collin, of some things we're covering that if you read through the legacy media, you wouldn't even know some of this was going on behind the scenes, but that's the kind of thing we talk about here on Point of View.
Every single day. And one of the things I love as well, because of the way you do this program, it's almost like you have the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other, and you're helping us know how to think and how to understand and take hold of what's happening and understand what as a follower of Christ, as Francis Schaeffer used to say, how now shall we live in the midst of this chaos? Because there's a lot of chaos out there. I want to thank a couple of people. Finally got some names in. Ron in Indiana with a $2,000 gift. Thank you for that. Jana in Colorado, thank you for your gift. Chris in Nevada, thank you for your gift. And Nancy in El Paso, Texas. All those gifts coming in the last few minutes. We are grateful for that. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
Thought we'd talk about legacy for just a minute. I made the short list of all the people who have listened to Point of View that have run for Congress or even school board, city council, before even talking about running for Congress, the presidency, people that have started pregnancy centers, Christian schools, decided to homeschool their kids. And of course, you have homeschooled your children, Penna. And of course, we talk about that with Liberty as well. And some of them who've just simply because of listening to Kelly Shackelford have been able to stand up for religious liberty in their communities. You think of the legacy as you're out speaking and meeting people. You meet people all the time that have had a very significant positive experience because they've listened to Point of View.
Yes, and sometimes I'm very surprised at the people that have listened over the years. And I know that our own Liberty McCarter, her parents listened to Point of View, and she listened as a child, so it helped form her.
Yes.
Same with Jeremy Dyes at First Liberty Institute. Those types of people who are now just in careers where God is using them to affect the culture. And so, we're kind of a generational force here. And I guess we just have to ask folks to please try to help us keep it going. We're effective.
Yes, and again, more than 50 years, as you pointed out.
Yeah, more than 50 years, and that's saying something for any kind of radio program, secular or sacred, and this is kind of a mix of both, and you're getting the best of that each and every day. Some incredible resources Kerby has already mentioned. You want to know about something, go online to pointofview.net. You're going to find out what the position is related to what the Bible says about it, what you need to know about it, and again, many of these topics you're not seeing covered anywhere else. You want an insider's look? Go to pointofview.net. You're going to find it right there. Again, your gifts right now, 800-347-5151. We have folks standing by to take your call, 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net. Let's hear from some joyful givers today.
We would certainly love to hear from them. I might just mention as we're going to a break that one of the other articles we posted is from Kevin McCullough, and he's been on the program with us before, even recently, is called The Naked Emperor of Election Integrity. The point he's making is that just the other day you had a number of people, whether it's Chuck Schumer, Raphael Warnock, or others, who say, well, maybe there's an occasional issue of voter fraud, but it's not a big deal. And of course, my quick answer to that is, well, how much voter fraud do you think is appropriate? And he's pointing out that once you begin to acknowledge, well, there's probably some, as a matter of fact, Fulton County admitted there were roughly 315,000 ballots that were tied to tabulator tapes that were not properly signed. And we'll probably talk more about that in the second hour as well. Penn is just a good illustration of the kinds of things we talk about that really need to get out there. So when people wonder about the SAVE Act, they wonder why we need it. That's why we need it.
One non-citizen or fraudulent ballot cancels out my vote, cancels out your vote. So think about that. Do you want your vote canceled out?
Yeah.
You need to have good, solid, secure election.
We need to hear from you right now as we go to a break. I know you don't want to miss some of the content, so this is a perfect time to call 800-347-5151. Website, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
Restoring America's godly heritage. Point of View.
I would encourage you strongly to become a financial contributor to Point of View. These guys are doing amazing work. They have been doing it for a long time. I've loved being on the show and and I love the people who run Point of View. If you're like me, you're discouraged by the mainstream media and what they leave out of their broadcasting, what they leave out of their analysis. And Point of View comes at the world from a biblical point of view. Now, more than any time in our history, particularly as we go into a time of great social and political change, I think it's important to invest in the ministry of Point of View so that they can continue to doing what they've been effective at doing. It's no time like the present.
Point of View, restoring America's godly heritage.
Back once again, Joel Rosenberg, good friend of this ministry. And Penna, I was just thinking about the fact that he's talked about Jerusalem as the epicenter of the world. And boy, we've seen that. And you think of the Joshua Fund. Now he has, of course, his own program on TBN. But he's been a good friend in all these years as his books have come out, or we wanted to educate people about Israel. Joel Rosenberg has been certainly front and center. And he's encouraging our listeners, if they want to support the nation of Israel, want to understand what's going on in the Middle East, that's why you want to support Point of View.
Yes, voices about Israel and the Jewish people are needed now more than ever, because even among Christians now we have growing anti-Semitism, and it's head-scratching in one sense and sad. So, we exist also to really tell the truth about some of those things. I'm so grateful to Joel Rosenberg for all the work that he's done. I remember interviewing him back in the 90s.
Yes. Well, and you and I have both been to Israel.
Yes.
And I know when you were, matter of fact, you've sometimes write your commentaries about that. And it does seem to me to be something that we've encouraged people to do. I know in a few weeks we have Gary Bauer's son. We have Gary Bauer on this week, but Gary Bauer's son, who does a program called Passages, which takes young people to Israel. And what they find is some of the things they thought they knew about Israel or actually were conspiracy theories that are not true.
Yes. So again, we're the truth team, and we try to tell the truth. We do tell the truth. We research it deeply, and we're we've all been around a while. Many of us have anyway. So we've seen these things play out, and it's really sad what's going on now. And I encourage people to go to Israel. I've been there 3 times, and I will never say that was my last trip there. I love going to Israel.
Yes.
Truth Team Week. I mean, that's what it's all about. Truth Team Week. You're going to find the truth here. You're going to get godly perspective on issues that often are not even being discussed in the mainstream media. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Thanks to Peggy in South Carolina, a gift of $30 a month. And Marty in South Carolina, a one-time gift of $360, which you were just talking about, Kerby. So others might want to participate at that level. There's a $30 a month level, a $50 a month level, $100 a month. We've got some wonderful thank you gifts to provide for you. And also, if you're giving monthly already, I really want you to pray and consider raising your monthly gift. If you're giving $30 a month, could you go to that next level of $50 a month? Maybe you're giving $10 a month. Could you move to the level of $30 a month? Pray about it, consider it, and then call 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Let me pick up on that for just a minute, because we have been talking about, and boy, if you read some of my commentaries, I'm always talking about how the dollar is being devalued. And really, when we had this massive amount of dollars that were printed during the pandemic and the stimulus, in a sense, to put it mildly, back when we first started talking about $30 a month, $1 a day, $30 a month, $30 went a lot further 5 and 10 years ago than it goes right now. And so I know that many people are saying, I am a little bit stretched, but at the same time, recognize that we find ourselves sometimes have to increase the budget a little bit simply because the dollars don't go as far as they used to.
Well, that's true. I will say that Point of View makes good use of the dollars that are given. I don't see a bit of waste here. I see people doing a lot of different things. We have not only a radio show, but you can listen to this show in many other platforms as a podcast. You can read things that we recommend on the website. You can look things up. So, we take the money that's given and we use it to just its best use and best effect. And so you are making a wonderful investment by giving to Point of View.
I love that you use the term investment. We didn't even talk about this, but if you're going to do investing of some type, you usually get some kind of portfolio, and it says, expect maybe this much return. One of the things I love to say about programs just like Point of View is you're going to get 100% return on your investment with Point of View. What do I mean by that? I mean that lives are going to be transformed. Their lives are going to be changed. You're going to learn things you've never learned before. You're going to hear things that only Point of View is covering. It is a 100% guarantee that is going to happen. Why can I say that? Because it's been happening for 54 years. So as you make your investment, know that it is going to return fully to you through the information and the explanations that you get day in and day out. 800-347-5151. Join Jennifer from Texas. She just signed up for $30 a month. Jennifer, thank you. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Again, we might just mention next hour we were going to be talking with our good friend Bunni Pounds. And Penna, this is pretty interesting. 1 week, one nation, one book. Reading the entire Bible at the Museum of the Bible. And this is just one of those, again, events that will be taking place. I know during this America 250 is certainly going to be a time in which there are going to be a lot of patriotic activities. But one of the most significant is just the idea of America reading the Bible cover to cover in 1 week at the Museum of the Bible.
I look forward to hearing more about that. That sounds like a wonderful initiative, something that would be beneficial, and it's really true. I mean, we don't obey the politicians. We use politics as a tool. And a lot of times, if you look at party platforms, for instance, you can see biblical values there. And to the extent that we can infuse politics with biblical values, that's the direction we should be moving.
One of the things I'm holding up right now is our most recent booklet, and that is, again, a biblical view on the Declaration. I've said before that even if you majored in American history, as you read through this, you're going to hear some things you've never heard before. And again, you might say, well, why am I hearing them? Are you making them up? No, we have a lot of footnotes in the back, including a number of books that we recommend, individuals over the years that we've interviewed on many of these topics. And I just think it is a good illustration of the fact that all of us need to know more about America's founding, and especially your children and grandchildren do. So as we go to a break at the top of the hour, Collin, I'm thinking I want to challenge, since all of us, well, at least two of us here are grandparents, and I guess you are now too. So all three of us can now qualify as grandparents. I'm hoping some of the grandparents listening right now say, what can I do to teach America's godly heritage to my grandchildren? And we want to provide you with resources to do that.
Your gift right now is really about legacy and life change. You can give a gift right now that is about legacy and life change. Someone gave before so that you and your kids right now can hear Point of View and learn these things. There are people that can give today. You can give for the generations to come. That's a great way to think about your gift today. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. Just takes a couple of minutes of your time, but what an incredibly exciting and powerful investment as you commit yourself to be part of Truth Team. It's Truth Team Week. 800-347-5151.
Ben, I know a lot of people wanted to hear from you, so I appreciate you coming in and saying hello and encouraging people to give to this ministry.
Thank you for letting me be a part of launching the Truth Team Week. It's been fun.
Well, again, Penna Dexter, and again, we have information about her on the website, but we need to hear from you. 800-347-5151. Of course, you can go to the website, pointofview.net. We'll be right back.
America was founded on a bedrock of biblical values. The best way to help America reclaim that godly heritage is to equip individuals to adopt a biblical worldview in their own life. You can help accomplish that by joining Point of View's Truth Team, and there is no better time to join than this week. The Truth Team is Point of View's core team of supporters, the people who make it possible for listeners like you around the nation to receive a biblical perspective on contemporary issues every day. To continue our mission effectively, Point of View needs to raise $150,000 by this Friday. Help us reach our goal and, most importantly, help Americans adopt a biblical worldview. Join the Truth Team today by visiting pointofview.net or call 1-800-347-5151. That's pointofview.net and toll free 1-800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this. Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Second hour, let's get to a few other things that we have posted here. Kevin McCullough has been on the program with us before, a fellow talk show host, the naked emperor of election integrity. I like this because he says there are some moments in history when the illusion collapses so completely, so spectacularly, that even the people propping it up can't keep a straight face anymore. And the point he's talking about is the controversy, which is, I think, generated about the so-called Save America Act, and points out the fact that you've had a number of individuals coming in front of the United States Senate, whether it's the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, whether it's the senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, who are all warning about how dangerous this particular bill is, which would simply require that you show an ID before you vote. And if you've never registered vote, that you at least have to show that you are a citizen. And they point out the fact that in Georgia alone, the same individual, again, Senator Warnock, built the brand on this idea of voter suppression when, as we've pointed out, after they implemented some of the voter integrity laws, the actual voter participation went up. And, of course, you also have 315,000 ballots that were tied to tabular tapes that were not properly signed, a violation of established rules. That's 315,000. That's not just a rounding error. That's a lot of cases. And I think it illustrates again that the arguments that were being used aren't really very effective because, for example, in some of their speeches, they've said, for example, that they recognize that, maybe there has been a little bit of voter fraud, but it's really not a big deal. And again, Kevin McCullough says, just imagine applying that same logic to anything else. Sure, some people sneak through airport security, but not that many. Yes, some bank transactions are fraudulent, but it's just a small percentage. Yes, there are a few counterfeit dollars, but we're really not going to check them. And you think about that, as he said, the emperor analogy, the emperor has no clothes, is starting to really wear very thin. And I think the American people sort of have figured out what's going on. So he says that the truth is that some of these individuals in the Senate cannot escape the fact that you've already admitted that there is some illegal voting happening. So obviously the system isn't perfect, and that suggests that the emperor is not fully dressed. It's a good piece, Collin Lambert. If nothing else, is just another way to help people who are convinced that this particular piece of legislation called Save America Act is somehow controversial. It isn't if you really would like to have voter integrity.
Well, and as you mentioned, 7 to 8 out of 10 people are interested in it, want it, and desire it. And we're all able to figure out how to get an ID. That's the crazy thing about it. 800-347-5151. If you're just tuning in, it's Truth Team Week, and that's the week where we come to you just a couple of times a year and say, can you help us fund this incredible program that you enjoy each and every day? We're listener supported. We're not attached to any government grants. There's no big endowment set aside for Point of View. Your gifts make it possible for Point of View to continue each and every day. You can join others who have already given today. You've got Larry in Idaho. You've got Kenneth in South Carolina, Robert in North Carolina, Charles in Indiana, Daniel in California. So far today, $8,380 we're starting with. It's a $150,000 goal for the week, so we've got about $131,000 to go over the next few days. But we're going to do do it just like you eat the elephant, Kerby. We're going to take one bite at a time, and just so excited about the opportunity to give you this opportunity to be part of Truth Team Week. It really is a blessing. I count it a blessing to be here talking about it, and I hope you count it a blessing to give. Go back maybe today or the next couple of days, read 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5, as Paul talks about the Macedonians and how even in extreme poverty they gave, and they gave beyond their means, some to their means, some beyond their means. I don't know where you are today, my friend, but I know many of you may be able to give a $10 gift or a $30 a month gift, maybe $100 a month. Some of you listening right now, you could give a gift of $5,000 or $10,000. Whatever you can give, I encourage you to do it now. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Some people wonder sometimes, Collin, if we're making a difference. And on Friday, we announced, of course, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the lawsuit that was brought by First Liberty Institute on behalf of Gabe Olivier. And one illustration of that is I'll hold up for anybody that happens to be watching online, an article from the New York Times. And not only did the New York Times actually cite this and actually report about it fairly, and actually talked about First Liberty Institute as a legitimate organization rather than some wacko off in the corner, but the decision was actually given and rendered by Justice Elena Kagan, who is, to be fair, left of center, was a Solicitor General in a previous Democratic administration, and nevertheless, you're starting to see that we're making tremendous progress. And I've had some people say that one other thing they appreciate about Point of View is not only the issues that we cover, but the fact that we really try to be very optimistic and forward-looking and talk about many of the victories that you probably would not know about if you weren't to listen to this program.
Well, that's one of the wonderful things about the program. Not only do you hear it, Kerby, as you listen to the program, but you see it on your website with all the resources that you provide each and every day, articles and information, places to where there's calls to action, where you can just click a button and help respond to things where there are needs. You every day experience as a listener point of view, or as a viewer online, you know the kind of difference it makes. And again, it's that idea of the newspaper or the website in one hand and the Bible in the other, looking at the biblical foundation for why we should believe what we believe and how we should activate ourselves in this culture that we live in. 800-347-5151. We would love to hear from you. I'd love to see about 5 or 10 calls or clicks through right now. 800-347-5151. Help us knock down that goal this week of $150,000. We're already $8,000 in. Maybe you can help us right now. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Just a minute, we're going to be talking with our good friend Bunni Pounds. And of course, you know her as the head of Christians Engaged. But she had this great vision of, wouldn't it be great to read the Bible through in 1 week at the, again, Museum of the Bible. We have a link to AmericaReadsTheBible.com. We'll get into that in just a minute. But it brings us back to one of the real benefits you get if you join with us at the Truth Team level. The base level is $1 a day, $30 a month or more. And again, I'm holding up our booklet on the Declaration of Independence. But even as we go to a break, as you said, we'd love to hear from some of you that can join at that level. There may be a few of you that could give a larger gift, and we've seen a few of those come in. So whether you can give a small gift or a large gift, participation is what we're looking for, and we know that God will certainly work through you to help fund this ministry. So again, that phone number to call, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. And of course, the website is at pointofview.net. We'll take a break and we'll report how we're doing right after this.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
War is costly. After more than 3 weeks of military engagement in Iran, critics and even many supporters want to know the costs. Now, the cost in lives has been minimal, though any person who dies in a war is a tragedy. but previous war games done by the Defense Department estimated a much greater loss of life in military hardware. And it's reasonable to assume that Iran's military will not be able to threaten its neighbors anytime in the future. The financial costs to the U.S. are significant, exceeding $1 billion each day. For example, the estimate for the first 12 days was $16 billion. When Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was asked, he said there is no price tag that will make the Iran war unaffordable. On the one hand, you could argue that you can't put a price tag on bringing peace to the Middle East. On the other hand, he seems to be saying that whenever we need more money, we can just crank up the money printer. Let's talk about something politicians want to ignore. The country is quickly approaching $39 trillion in national debt. Last month, the government brought in $313 billion. That sounds like quite a bit, but the government in that month spent $621 billion. That's a $38 billion deficit in 1 month. The deficit over the last 6 months was $1 trillion. Here's something else politicians want to ignore. This year, we need to fund $10 trillion of our debt through U.S. Treasuries, and the interest rate on these new Treasuries is much higher than before, meaning it will cost the government about $400 billion a year in interest. Yes, war is costly, but few want to talk about the financial costs that are mounting every day. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
Go deeper on topics like you just heard by visiting pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. Restoring America's Godly Heritage. Point of View.
Well, first of all, the Lord told us directly in the Scripture that it is better to give than to receive. And when you look at that at face value, I think most of us reject that thesis. Certainly in our culture, we think it's better to receive than to give. and the Lord completely turned that around. And yet when you look at all of the data, even the science, all the research, all the surveys indicate that that scriptural claim or that scriptural promise, in fact, is true. So I'm excited to encourage people to give, particularly to give to Point of View. And as you know, my wife and I personally support your organization because we have a portfolio of investments we make in God's kingdom. And we've always said that we admire the work that you do. We admire the outcomes of that work and the multiplication and the young people that are growing and benefiting and being equipped to speak into the darkness of our culture. I just think it's a great return on investment.
Point of View. Restoring America's Godly Heritage.
Collin, he was talking about return on investment. We just talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
What a great turn of phrase. And not surprising because Chuck Bentley, who we just heard, is always talking about economic issues, biblical issues, a biblical perspective on those issues. And that's something we talk about quite often here on Point of View. My commentary today deals with some of these economic issues, which we'll get to a little bit later. But I just think it's an illustration, again, that first hour we heard from Kelly Shackelford, who says, look, I'm not asking you to do something I don't do. I give to this ministry. Chuck Bentley and his wife, same thing. I'm not asking you to do something they don't do. They have been very faithful supporters of Point of View as well. So we're encouraging you to give us a call at 800-347-5151.
It is Truth Team Week. This is the opportunity you have to make an impact, not just be a listener, but be a participant in Point of View Radio. And we're celebrating America's 250th anniversary. I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more about it from Kerby in the days ahead. We've got some wonderful thank you gifts to make available to you, the booklets, the monthly booklets, and the monthly magazine. If you give it that $30 a month or more level, we're also going to throw in a huge umbrella. It's like a golf umbrella, but it actually goes down kind of small, which is nice. That's at the $30 a month level. At the $50 a month level, we have these wonderful bookends, wooden with a citation from the Declaration of Independence. And then, Kerby, this book is amazing, $100 or more a month. This book is going to be put in people's hands with clips from or excerpts from the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and even some interesting things It's been translated.
Yes.
How do you translate the Constitution?
Well, some people in 1789 talked a little different than some in 2026. So you actually have both the Constitution and one which is maybe easier to read to your children or even for you to understand. Of course, great speeches. I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King Jr., Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty, Give Me Death, of course, Gettysburg Address, even some of the patriotic songs and much, much more. So again, these are resources. And if you'd like to know more about those, you can go to pointofview.net, and you can see that at each level we want to send you some gifts as a thank you. Again, I know you don't give to get, but we certainly want to thank you for your financial support.
Thanks to William and Diane from North Carolina, just called with a one-time gift. Carol in California with a one-time gift. And again, phone lines are open. I know you want to listen to Kerby, and I know we're going to have another wonderful guest on. Take a moment, dial this number, 800-347-5151. Let's hear from 5 people right away. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Again, I mentioned this a minute ago, but let's get into it because, again, America 250. And what a great idea for America Reads the Bible. 1 week, 1 nation, 1 book. And again, most of us, of course, know Bunni Pounds as the president of Christians Engaged. She's also the senior vice president for Family Policy Alliance and Family Policy Alliance Foundation, founded by Jim Dobson. And, of course, we've talked about in the past her book, Jesus and Politics, One Woman's Walk with God in a Mudslinging Profession. But, and we're going to have her on in the future in May when her book comes out, Stepping Up to Lead, Rebuilding a Nation in the Footsteps of Nehemiah. She was, of course, a political consultant for 16 years. She is now serving probably 1 million Christians at least in terms of voter mobilization and all the issues related to pray, vote, and engage, a graduate of Christ for the Nations and Dallas Baptist University. But in the midst of all of this idea of having individuals at the Museum of the Bible read through the Bible in 1 year is a vision that Bunni has. And so, Bunni, welcome to Point of View.
Well, great to be with you as always, Kerby and gang. And I love always coming on the week when you're inviting people to give to this ministry because it's critical for the nation.
Let's see if we can talk about your vision. You are a visionary leader for sure. I'm waiting to see your book on leading and leading a nation back. But certainly this idea that you had of wouldn't it be great to read through the Bible at the Museum of the Bible, and this seems like a monumental task, and yet you've been able to accomplish it.
It is huge, Kerby. We are putting out the agenda this week with almost 500 of our national leaders reading the Bible. What this is going to look like is April 18. It's a Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so that's 6 p.m. Central Time. We will have an opening celebration from Mark Batterson's church, National Community Church in Washington, D.C., and it will be our national leaders from our cabinet secretary to a member of Congress to Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond to Candace Cameron Bure from Full House, and so many leaders, David Barton, Tony Perkins, so many of your guests that you have on all the time. We'll be sharing quick testimonies of the power of the Bible in their life and then calling the American people back to daily Bible reading and discipleship. It's going to be a powerful 90-minute show that's going to be live streamed through Great American PureFlix to the nation, and will be on Bott Radio, American Family Radio, and Salem Radio across the country as well. Then the next 7 days, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 7 full days, 84 hours, we are going to read the Bible and the Bible alone together as a nation. And we have 16 national worship leaders flying in on their own dime that are going to be filling in prayer and worship at the end of each hour. So it is going to be a powerful thing, and people will be able to come to the Museum of the Bible, be a part of this live in D.C., or live stream it in their home, their businesses, or their churches.
Let me just mention we have a link to AmericaReadsTheBible.com. You don't even have to remember all that because simply just go to the website, pointofview.net. As you go there, there's a place where you can attend online. For some of our listeners, they may want to attend live. And from April 18th to the 25th, last list I got was almost 475 leaders who will be reading through the Bible. There's a way in which you can stay informed, join the movement, donate to it. Of course, most importantly, there is, as you mentioned, the opportunity to join the opening celebration. And so I thought that was very significant as well. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, though, I want to talk about your vision because in some respects, it goes all the way back to when Ezra opened the Word and read it to the people, which you read about in Nehemiah 8. But I know we're coming to a break, and one of the things I would encourage people to do is if they appreciate knowing about these kind of events and knowing that they can participate, even if they can't go to Washington, D.C., they can click on that button and they can attend it online. But that's one of the many benefits of listening to Point of View.
It is, and it's there every day. Every day, Kerby, you and your team have wonderful information there for folks who are listening, and you can go deep on all kinds of topics. And, of course, learning more about America Reads the Bible, I think there's going to be plenty of you to be able to go and look and see what's happening there and participate as well from a distance, I think, or in person if you have a chance to live near the area where this is going to be taking place in D.C. And Museum of the Bible's fabulous. Go check it out with this reading as well. 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Your gifts are needed to enable Kerby and the team to continue to do this incredible work each and every day. It's a very small staff. You heard Penna Dexter last hour talk about this dedicated team, many doing multiple jobs and putting out an incredible amount of information for you, biblically based, about what's going on in the world and how we should respond as followers of Christ. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. We're listener supported. We count on you this week. It's Truth Team Week. Be part of Truth Team. 800-347-5151.
So you go to the website. You can find out more about AmericaReadsTheBible.com. But most importantly, click over to the part of Donate. And if you appreciate some of the things that we cover every single day on this program, some of the various events that we encourage you to participate in, movies to go watch, and all the rest, we'd love to hear from you. You can go to the website, pointofview.net. But also, let me encourage you to make that phone call right now. 800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
America was founded on a bedrock of biblical values. The best way to help America reclaim that godly heritage is to equip individuals to adopt a biblical worldview in their own life. You can help accomplish that by joining Point of View's Truth Team, and there is no better time to join than this week. The Truth Team is Point of View's core team of supporters, the people who make it possible for listeners like you around the nation to receive a biblical perspective on contemporary issues every day. To continue our mission effectively, Point of View needs to raise $150,000 by this Friday. Help us reach our goal and, most importantly, help Americans adopt a biblical worldview. Join the Truth Team today by visiting pointofview.net or call 1-800-347-5151. That's pointofview.net and toll free 1-800-347-5151. Point of View will continue after this. You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Day one of our Truth Team Week, and we certainly encourage you to give us a call, 800-347-5151. Bunni Pounds with us by phone, Collin Lambert in studio. And Bunny, for just a minute before we get kind of an update on where we're doing, I thought I'd mention that we do have a link to AmericaReadsTheBible.com. On April 18th, which is just a few weeks away, you have the opening celebration. People can join the opening celebration. They can get tickets to that if they would want to do so. Of course, there's a place where you can actually participate online. And then, of course, the reading takes place from April 19th to the 25th, and all sorts of other ideas related to that. You have pictures of some of the people that are going to be the readers. That's a kind of a who's who of individuals, some of the worship leaders, and all of the rest. But go back to the vision, because in some respects, thinking about Ezra, opening God's Word, and at that time, of course, was the Old Testament and the Torah primarily, but nevertheless, reading the Word aloud to the people of Israel. We read about that in Nehemiah 8, and that really was the vision that you had, wasn't it?
It was, Kerby. You know, my vision or my calling, personal calling, is to raise up Christians to be leaders in our communities, in our culture. And it really hit me a couple years ago that we needed an Ezra moment in this country. We need a Bible revival, because a lot of us, you know, we have a hard time even opening our mouths to share the gospel, let alone like run for school board or impact our chamber of commerce or get into these places where we would take fire, right, or suffer or have painful experiences. So, you know, it really hit me that we need to know who we are, and the way to get boldness is to know the story of God and to know our part in that story. So I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if our national leaders from all spheres of influence, all demographics and denominations would humble themselves in front of the American people and say, hey, we're some of the high-performing people in this country, but we need the Bible every day just to make it. You know, we're a cabinet secretary. We're a famous actress. We're 115 national ministries that are partnering with us now on this. We are the ones trying to get it done every day, but we have to have devotion to Jesus every day. You do too. And the idea is this: we need a whole bench of leadership arising in this country that can fill in gaps in every sphere of influence. And the only way we're going to have that, Kerby, as you know, is to have Christians with a biblical worldview that know their God and that can do mighty exploits. So that's where this was birthed, and I believe that God's going to use this for his glory as we proclaim the word of God around this country.
What about the younger generation? You have a Gen Z summit that's taking place during that same period of time. It's a gathering really for 18 to 30-year-olds. You're one of the many speakers there, but I think you also have a great hope for this next generation.
I love Gen Z. I mean, I just saw a survey this weekend, Kerby, that they are turning off their phones more than other generations. They're actually trying to go back to basic living, and they want to go on mission. They want to make a difference. So, yeah, we're gathering 50 to 150 young people, 18 to 30-year-olds. Hey, guys, come on. We're sponsoring like a $600 conference for you to meet members of Congress, to do a Capitol tour with the Bartons, to really experience the museum from a Gen Z perspective and be a part of the readings. It's really going to be a fabulous 2.5 days. And so you can check that out at America Reads the Bible and come to that as well. But we want to invest in the next generation, and we have some great supporters that are helping us do that. And it is really a blessing to see them come alive, that they can be leaders and change the country.
As Bunny was talking about, there is definitely a move across the country. Hearts are opening to the gospel. Hearts are opening to getting engaged at a new level. Momentum is building, and Point of View is part of this whole effort in letting people know about that. We would love for you to be a part at 800-347-5151. I mentioned 2 Corinthians in the first hour. 2 Corinthians and chapter 8, verses 1 through 5 talks a lot about giving, even giving out of our poverty. And there are 3 points that have to do with giving. It's an act of thanksgiving. It brings glory to God, and it helps create gratitude. We talked about joyful giving. We just have 21 minutes left in the program today as we broadcast live, and 21 minutes. We would love to see about $6,000-$7,000 come in these last few minutes. Maybe you could help with that. So far, $8,530. We'd love to get as close to $15,000 today as possible so we can hit our goal for the week. Maybe you could give one of those $30 a month gifts. If that's your level, please call or click right now and give. Maybe $50 a month. Maybe one of those $100 a month gifts. I really believe we could use a gift of $2,000 or $5,000 to get us there. Would you help us? Would you be a part? This is a ministry that is supported by you. If you're blessed by it, I encourage you to give to your church first and then think about giving to Point of View. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Bunny, we've been talking about, of course, the idea of America Reads the Bible, but we also have a link to christiansengage.org. And so first things first, wanted to talk about what's going to happen in April, but you're well aware of the fact that when we are in the midst of the midterm elections, and that is our latest Outlook magazine, there is an opportunity for people to pray, to vote, and to engage. You even, since we've talked, have added additional resources. You have the Christians Engaged Academy, their voting resources, other resources to help individuals to motivate people in their congregation. And that is something that you've been known for. And I thought for just a minute you might speak to what churches and individuals can do by clicking on that particular link to christiansengage.org.
Thank you, Kerby. Yeah, we're building an army of Christians that is a standing army, meaning it doesn't go away every election. It doesn't ebb or flow. We're calling Christians to actively pray for our country every week. And we do that through putting out a video and a scripture to our people every week. We're also calling you to vote in every election, and we have 50 state pages with all the resources you need for your voting patterns, but we will also drive you to the polls. Think of us as your accountability partner. So taking our pledge to pray, vote, and engage will help you never forget an election again. And then we've built so many resources, a whole, Christians Engage Academy that you can literally get hundreds of hours of content. Our podcasts, my podcast, Jesus for America, or Conversations with Christians Engaged. We have so many things for people and for pastors. We love working with pastors. And Kerby, we have over 500 churches now saying they're going to stream America Reads the Bible. Even Regent University and Colorado Christian University are going to stream the whole thing for all their student bodies throughout the week. So we want to see people go back to the Bible, but then we want them to be the leaders that they're called to be in our country. And one of the ways you do that is through your civic duties. And we love walking beside believers as they activate for our country.
Again, don't forget, as I mentioned, the Christian Engaged Academy, biblical economics, biblical worldview, on-ramp to civic engagement, the whole idea of being salt and light. And, of course, if you are not familiar with this, you might want to click on christiansengage.org because, as you've pointed out, you have all sorts of hundreds and hundreds of churches that are involved, 50 states, more than 1 million Christians, and it's just a great way to educate people. So, Bunny, thank you for what you've been doing all these years through Christians Engaged, and thank you for your vision of America Reads the Bible. It's been great to have you on the program again, and I'm sure we'll be doing it again soon because you have a new book coming out in May.
Amen. Thank you so much, Kerby. Appreciate you guys so much, and everybody give to Point of View.
Well, I guess that's a good admonition there. And what would you say?
I like that. Everyone give to Point of View. Whatever you're able to give, now is the time. We're grateful for that. Got about 17 minutes remaining. We need to hear from you right now. Would you call or click through 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Pointofview.net, those are great ways to get involved. Your support fuels transformation that cannot be silenced. There's no cultural shift or economic downturn or opposition that can stop the power of God's word getting out. And Point of View does that each and every day. We need to hear from you. Let's have those phone lines ring. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Let me just mention that when we come back from the break, we'll give you an update on how we're doing. A very good piece by Charles Cook on Against Misery. We'll talk about that. We want to be joyful, and I think he's got a good way to end the program today. We'll also hear from our Vice President of Stewardship, Jenna Weidler, so we'll get into all of that. But most importantly, as we go to a break, maybe up until now you said, well, I don't want to miss anything because you've had Penna Dexter on, you've had Bunni Pounds on. Well, this would be a perfect time to call. 800-347-5151. Put us over the top so that we can finish Monday in a strong position. And, of course, the website, which we have been mentioning many times, is pointofview.net. You can find all the resources there, and you can make a gift there as well. We'll be right back.
Restoring America's Godly Heritage. Point of View.
Oh my goodness, we need Point of View. Kerby and his guests bring us biblical perspective every day. And it's hard to do it every single day, but they do it so well. And it's what we need. There are so many voices that vie for our attention. And so many of those voices try to take us away from God's word and God's ways. And Point of View helps us to stay focused on that. And as a radio station general manager, that's the kind of programming I need. And without Point of View, honest, I don't know what else I have. I don't know where else to turn.
Point of View. Restoring America's Godly Heritage.
Kind comments from our good friend Paul Scott at WPEO. Thought it'd be good to hear from a general manager. We could add many others, but if nothing else, just a great opportunity to recognize that we do partner with so many stations around the country, and we encourage you to support those ministries, but also hope that you will consider supporting us as well.
Great time to do that. It's Truth Team Week all this week. We have 11 minutes remaining in this hour. What can we see happen? What can God do in these final moments of this hour? Well, it really depends on you. I encourage you to pray. Ask the Lord what you have him to do, and then respond. That's really what Truth Team Week is all about, responding to God's call to help support the work of this ministry. It's biblical. If you are ministered to by an organization or ministry, it is biblical to give back to that place that feeds you regularly. Have you been fed through the years by Point of View? Now is your time. This is your week to respond and be a part. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. You can click through at pointofview.net. We have $8,650 in so far. We would love to see a couple of more gifts come in, especially one of those larger gifts. I know not everybody can give a large gift, Kerby, but some have the capacity. It's not even going to shake their pocketbook hardly. A gift of maybe $2,500 or $5,000, that would really get us closer to where we need to end today. If we did 20% a day, today's would be a $15,000 total. That's where we'd like to be in the next few minutes. So can you help? A gift of any amount, 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
I thought it'd be good, especially as we wind down the first day, to hear from our Vice President of Stewardship, Jenna Weidler, who's in Colorado. And Jenna, thank you for joining us today here on Point of View.
Well, hi, Kerby and Collin. Thank you for having me.
Well, what would you like to share with our listeners and our potential donors?
Well, I'd like to expand a little bit on what Collin was just saying. I want to remind people that our funding is through dependency on God, and we have asked Him to provide through His people. And our ongoing funding with individuals is those who see God in our mission. And by giving, you connect with eternal purposes. And of course, the joy of giving you experience comes directly from the heart of God. So please invest in this mission. I mean, we need to continue to provide truth and biblical clarity across the world. And let me ask you, if you don't give, who will?
Well, again, I think it's important to challenge people to consider what they might do. And you've been privileged over the years to meet many of our donors, and anybody that has questions or would like for you to pray for her or for the staff to do so, that's something they can contact you about as well, isn't it?
That is correct, Kerby. We love to pray for our partners, and you guys are partners, not just donors. Many ministries speak of donors, but you guys truly are our partners in this. So please call in and give, and whoever you manages to take the call, please let them know if you have a prayer request, because we would consider it an honor and a privilege to pray for you.
Know that as you give your gift, God is using you to continue his work in a very dark and sinful world. Think about that for a moment. God using you in this specific way. It will be a blessing to you, but it's going to be a blessing to others as well. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net.
Well, Jana, we thank you for joining us, and maybe we can check in with you later in the week, but I just would encourage people, if they have had a chance to meet her and she has been around the country, this would be a great opportunity for you to say, I've appreciated her ministry in my life, and I would love to give a special gift in honor of her. So, Jana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kerby.
Let me just mention that one of the themes that you've been talking about is joy. And I didn't know you were going to talk about that, but Charles Cook, who we've talked about many times before, talks about against misery. And he's saying, maybe we just need to lighten up a little bit here, maybe be a little more joyful. And he gave a number that I did not know. That is, the latest Gallup poll shows that 81% of Americans are either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with their lives, with about 20% either very or very satisfied with the way things are going in the country. So what happens is that, we feel pretty good about our life, but we don't feel very good about the country. And I understand why. There are all sorts of things we talk about every single day here on Point of View that are a problem. But what he's suggesting is that maybe we should have that gratitude, because here's one other statement he makes. A baby who is born in America today would have been envied by pretty much every other human being who came before. Without having done anything to earn it, the baby is the beneficiary of thousands of years' worth of other people's effort, experimentation, and pain. And I did a commentary a while back in which an individual was talking about what it was like for the kings in the 16th and 17th centuries, families, and what they perhaps had to endure compared to what we have now. So maybe back to one of the points you made a minute ago is the issue of gratitude. And I think as we're winding down the program today, we are very grateful for anyone who's supported this ministry, and we want to say thank you to you. But maybe if you're grateful for this ministry, grateful for the radio station that carries this ministry, grateful for this country in which you live, maybe that's another reason to give.
Absolutely a reason to give, and it is Truth Team Week. It's just a couple of weeks a year we do this. We don't even set aside all of the programming. We try to bring you a full hour of content along with a few opportunities to ask you to join us as a partner as well. I mentioned early on today, and I'll mention again, take a moment tonight, tomorrow, maybe a couple of days this week, read 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. Read it and to pray and just ask the Lord, can I do something to help with Truth Team Week? Whatever it is, it's between you and the Lord. But I encourage you, 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. And then take a moment and call 800-347-5151. Go to pointofview.net. There's so many great resources there. You can see the guests we're going to have on this week. It's an exciting opportunity. Truth Team Week. Join the team. Be part of the Truth Team and make a difference in people's lives every day.
Lathan Watts and Chelsea Human with us tomorrow, and we'll certainly get into some other very important issues that they will be talking about. But as we go off the air, I want you to realize that even though we are off the air, we'll still take some of those phone calls for a few more minutes. 800-347-5151. Also recognize, Collin, that some people listen to this later at rebroadcast, and so they could still call because we'll still try to answer those phones, and they can always go to the website, pointofview.net. So as we wind down for today, today. We had a goal, and we haven't met it yet, so this is
Not
a great
yet.
opportunity for people to make that phone call, even as we go off the air, or to visit the website, pointofview.net. And it's just been a delight, as always, to have you here. I'm looking forward to 4 more days with you.
Great to be here. 800-347-5151, pointofview.net. Call and make a difference today.
Well, we've got a lot to cover over this next week, and we will do that, but we also certainly come to you in this particular time to talk about how you can support this ministry. So can't do it without you. So if you can support us, we would greatly appreciate it. As we go off the air, that number again, 800-347-5151. Of course, the website is pointofview.net. As always, want to thank Megan for help engineering the program. Steve, thank you for producing the program. Colin, thank you for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow right here on Point of View.
America was founded on a bedrock of biblical values. The best way to help America reclaim that godly heritage is to equip individuals to adopt a biblical worldview in their own life. You can help accomplish that by joining Point of View's Truth Team, and there is no better time to join than this week. The Truth Team is Point of View's core team of supporters, the people who make it possible for listeners like you around the nation to receive a biblical perspective on contemporary issues every day. To continue our mission effectively, Point of View needs to raise $150,000 by this Friday. Help us reach our goal and, most importantly, help Americans adopt a biblical worldview. Join the Truth Team today by visiting pointofview.net or call 1-800-347-5151. That's pointofview.net and toll free 1-800-347-5151. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.